Welcome to the Consultants Way podcast, your go-to resource for all things professional services consulting. Brought to you by McMahon & Ransford, a strategy consulting firm with over 30 years of experience helping B2B organizations achieve sustainable growth, and the Consultants Way, the leading comprehensive consultant development program. Hosted by Dean McMahon and Anthony Paluska, we share expert insights, firsthand experiences, and conversations with industry leaders on the topics that interest you most.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this podcast are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of their employer, company, or affiliated organizations.
Welcome back to the Consultants Way podcast. Dean McMahon and Anthony Paluska, and today we are happy to be joined by Sri Ganesan. Sri, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Anthony.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sri, you are, many may know you. You're the co-founder and the CEO of Rocketlane, one of the leading PSA organizations in the market right now. And we're excited to talk to you. We see lots of professional services organizations and leaders between us and you, and excited to dive into this conversation and compare some notes. But before we do that, Sri, provide just a little bit of background about yourself, and then we'll dive in and talk a little bit about Rocketlane and set the stage for that before we go deeper on the topic.
As you said, founder and CEO of Rocketlane. This is my second SaaS venture, and maybe I should change that going forward to my first AI venture. But previously did a startup 2012 to 2015, got acquired by a company called Freshworks. Before that was in product management. And in that journey at Freshworks is when I experienced the impact and the stress and the anxiety from running PS. The implementation and PS team within our business unit reported to me. And there was always this black box of what's going to happen, what's happening, is it going well, is it not? When we closed a large customer, it wasn't always happiness. It was, who's going to do the implementation for these folks? So coming from that background, we sort of took the challenge upon ourselves to solve that at Rocketlane. Firstly, through what we called a client-centric, modern, all-in-one PSA, very different from what else is out there in terms of breadth and depth. But now we're also going to launch a AI workforce for PS teams. So that's where we are headed with Rocketlane.
Yeah. We caught up a couple of weeks ago. You shared some of that. I know you guys just did a big conference where you were talking to a bunch of PS leaders about this, which is a nice setting of the stage for this conversation, because what I really want to dive into is what you're seeing in terms of key trends about the professional services market, and then also what good looks like in PS organizations. What are the leaders doing that others should be replicating or should be at least looking into? So let's maybe spend a moment on the big trends that we're seeing in the marketplace right now. If you were to just try and summarize the top couple, what are you seeing PS leaders focus on and focus on the most?
Yeah, I think what I see leaders focus on, I think beginning of 2024, so almost a year and a half ago, there started, I would say, more of a focus around, hey, we need to do more through partners, can't do everything in-house. I saw a lot of leaders talking about starting a partner motion. I think even those who had grown, internal teams to a certain size, knew that there was pressure to do things more efficiently, and people were seeing partner as the route to increase internal efficiencies or, make your P&Ls look different. And I'm talking more about PS organizations in product companies, just for clarity.
Yes,
right?
yes, and we would be talking to a lot of the same, right? That's the target audience for most of the listeners, are not your pure play consulting firms, but much more your professional services teams attached to a piece of software company, or where they're not the big revenue engine for their organization, but they're a critical part of getting the work done to make sure the customer gets the outcome.
Right, right. I think this year, 2025, I'm hearing a lot of people talk about, hey, we want to do things more efficiently. We have certain goals around utilization rates, etc. Surprisingly, I would say, uh, yes, there is talk about AI, but it's very focused on, hey, we want to start doing more, you know, forecasting in smarter ways, or we want our capacity planning to have, our staffing functions to have AI, etc. Uh, which I feel is very limited. The what I hear from PS leaders, I feel in their spirit of what they want to accomplish with AI, I feel it has been in limited areas. Yeah, I would say I'm actually disappointed in what I hear. But then when there are some leaders from whom I hear a very different story, right? Where they've started adopting AI in the fulfillment of their work itself. And that is where I see things should shift. That's like our push at our conference as well was all around, hey, how are we going to change the fulfillment of your delivery with internal or customer facing capabilities that are powered by AI? So I feel that needs to be a big focus because, you know, maybe 15% of your consultants' time and maybe 40% of your leadership's time goes with admin tools and insights and reports and so on. But the bulk of work that your team does is in the actual fulfillment of work. And that's where you should be looking to drive much more efficiencies than other places.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, just anecdotally seeing and hearing the same thing. Where as organizations are talking a lot about AI right now, but the use cases that they're trying to apply it to are those non-billable administrative activities, and not looking at things differently. Do you have a in those that you've talked to or those that you've seen that are performing well? Do you have a sense of why they're trying to isolate on a couple of those administrative activities or some of those non-billable tasks first? Is it a fear of not wanting to do things in front of the customer? Is it I couldn't possibly imagine the transformation needed to get my organization to change its delivery processes to include AI, but I can very easily see how a Gen AI tool that I play with online can help me do proposal writing, as an example. I mean, do you have a feel for like what the reluctance is to embrace something more meaningful here?
I think it's a combination of things. Firstly, the tightening of budgets in the last few years has meant the experimental bandwidth that teams have has come down, right? So you usually need like someone to be trying out new things to make it, possible to adopt that across a team. And if everyone is, behind and fighting fires and so on, then you don't get that even mental bandwidth to say, okay, let me try something new. The second is, I think things have changed so rapidly in the last, I would say, 5 months, 6 months, that leaders haven't caught up with the art of what's possible. That's very real, right? When I ask people about, hey, have you used or seen Operator from OpenAI? Very important, groundbreaking, set of capabilities like browse use technology. People haven't tried it out, so they don't know what is automatable now, and they are stuck in a world where, okay, I need to take the transcript from Gong and I can have it create a handoff document. Maybe that's at max what people are trying, which is more accessible. Everyone is getting like the equivalent of ChatGPT or Gemini or Microsoft Copilot for their team. So that part is happening, but um, larger possibilities aren't even imagined today. That's the second thing I would say. And maybe there is also this element of uh, you know uh, more rapid experimentation that people need to be inspired to do. It's today you're still chasing the same utilization target. No one, I think the IT IT organizations like CIO and CFOs are putting pressure on customer support and marketing and BDR teams to transform with I don't think that same lens has been applied to every function yet. And PS is one of the functions where, though they are actually going and deploying AI for their customers, they are not, using it for themselves.
Are there any commonalities of the culture, of the leadership style, of the type of organization, size, whatever, of those that are more leading edge that you've seen? Right? Are there any patterns that would say, hey, these kinds of organizations are more likely to be more forward thinking on these topics, or not?
Yeah, I think there is a certain leadership maturity, which I see in companies which always had the habit of building internal tools to help themselves. Those teams are doing more with AI as well, right? I think it's almost like, did the leader bring a mindset of, hey, we're gonna always have some of our, I'm not gonna try to maximize utilization rate overall. I'm gonna try to have some bandwidth for our team to build tools for ourselves to do our work more efficiently. And there's always been these no code tools that people could have used to build some internal tools, scripts that teams write to make their life easier for like the repeat work that they need to do. If that culture was there of doing things, then I see that translating now into, oh, let's do the same kind of things, but imagine more with AI and do that. And so yeah, I've seen I mean, I've seen OpenGov, MongoDB, folks like that do that, and they always had that culture of like, let's do more internal tools.
One thing I've heard a few times, and I haven't done a survey, but that there's an opinion that a lot of the more technical knowledge is now going to be held by AI, but the taking the client to success, the more relationship consultative skills are going to be more valuable as we deploy AI, and the more technical skills are going to be more readily available. How did we do this before? Here are 5 steps. Here is and both self-serve to the client and self-serve to the PS organization. Same thing with getting third parties. The third parties and partners help, but you're still end up responsible making sure the customer gets success, and that leads to a different skill set over time. And I'm not sure all our PS organizations are. I think there's a hesitancy. I get my value because I'm an expert in this. If we're going to AI my expertise, I don't have any interest in that because I didn't sign up to be an advisor, right? And I hear that a few times now. Does that play with what you're thinking?
I think the function needs to fundamentally evolve. In fact, one of the things we talked about at Propel Propel is our conference, is how even the name of the function, we call it professional services because it's professionals offering a service. But if it's going to be professionals and AI offering a service together, right? You have AI workers doing part of the work, and maybe we're not going to be doing the same kind of projects, the same size of projects. Maybe we're not going to be doing, uh, you know, not charging for hours of people in the future because AI is doing a lot of the work. I think there is a full realignment of what we are, what the roles are within the function. And, we were trying to say, hey, you should call yourself an intelligent delivery org versus a PS org, so that, there is an internal mind shift around something is changing and people need to acknowledge the change and adapt to it. And I don't know. I mean, you know, took this line of, it could be that the functional and technical capabilities are driven by AI and people hold the relationships. Maybe AI also gets better at how to work well with humans and is able to coach us over there in, hey, this is a better way to write this email. This is a better way for you to approach this call to convince the customer about an approach. I think it's going to come into every realm of our way of working. And there are going to be some humans who are teaching it, some humans who are learning from it. That's how I see it. Like there is AI is used to make your best practices or replicate elements of what different people do really well and take it to the rest of the organization. Whether it's a you know uh, product knowledge, functional or domain knowledge, knowledge on how to work with customers, every aspect of it, I think, is going to have its own sort of AI driven experience where there is a body of knowledge which is, known to it, which also keeps evolving as it learns from the humans. And then there is ways in which that body of knowledge is being distributed or made available to humans to take and use, or for the customer to use, as you said, or for other agents to take that body of knowledge, use it to perform the work.
So maybe one of the key skills going forward is the ability to internalize AI advice and use it instantaneously.
Yeah,
And
maybe you're being
a
coached live.
different skill. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, right? In hearing you describe that, the perception of what is valuable is going to fundamentally change, right? And what's valuable in terms of the skills on our team, right? Where we can't view our deep technical knowledge, or take any knowledge. I mean, technical domain, whatever the case is, knowledge, and where, whether we like it or not, right? People have held on to that and sometimes even held their organizations hostage by saying, I am this deep knowledge expert. I need to be involved in all of these things. I couldn't possibly train this team on how to do that. You need me, and therefore I continue to grow as a valuable subject matter expert. The perception of what's valuable there is actually a little bit different, and those that that expertise can be automated in some way and therefore be accessible by others. And therefore, to Dean's point, okay, what do you do with that knowledge becomes more of the skill that's valuable, and how do you interpret that knowledge in this customer situation together with AI to make something happen? So there's this value shift that's happening in terms of what's going to be important for the skills on a team. And then from a client's perspective, what's valuable, right? What I'm willing to pay for is going to change fundamentally as well, right? The days of incredibly large teams showing up to do an implementation where a lot of the work can be automated, right? There's going to be competitors that push that out, right? And instead it's I don't want to have to worry about paying for the software and then paying a multi-million-dollar implementation for a bunch of resources that are junior to come in and just do the implementation. Let's clean that up. And so pricing changes, key offers change, just the revenue mix of companies that make a lot of money off of professional services will change as the function evolves. I don't know if you see that any differently, or if there's other value things that change, but I do think that's, in just hearing you talk about it, what's actually changing is what is valuable in regards to professional services, internal and external.
Yeah.
I think there's various types of mental models emerging in terms of how you work with AI, which can also inform us on what's going to be valuable. There's one mental model of AI is going to start as an intern for every team member who you can delegate work to, teach how to do the work, and then it's going to start doing it better and better, and do all of the work for you, and you're just delegating work to it. And that's a good framework for doing tasks, right? Like, hey, I need to get this work done. I know what to do. Let me get it done. When it comes to what is the right solution to take on and then do the work, I think both of you mentioned this whole, let's think of it as architecting solutions for a domain, for a particular product, etc. That's going to be more, AI is going to suggest options based on what are the customer goals, etc. I feel, yes, it can suggest the right option, perfect option, but I feel there will always be the need for a human lens, expert, human in the loop, to also say, hey, but for this scenario, I think this is the better solution because. So AI propose what are the options, what are the pros and cons, human in the loop, decide, okay, this makes sense. No, I don't agree. Here's why things are different for this customer. Teach it back to AI. So I feel there is still relevance for that domain expert. It's just that they don't need to do as much of the heavy lifting as before. And maybe they can scale to do it. Not everyone on the team needs to be that level of a domain expert. You can have more of, you know, someone uses AI, comes with their reasoning and says, hey, here's how we propose to do it. Maybe there is a fewer set of like real experts who are confirming, hey, approach looks good, go do it. And then the completion of work is is happening where you say, okay, now that this is finalized, yeah, go set up this workflow, set up this, uh, agent. Maybe the humans are building more agents for all, So
Yeah.
all of that is gonna, I think, we'll see how it evolves. But I think one mental model is intern, one model is AI start the work for me, let me complete and confirm it. Another mental model is, hey, I got something started and AI can take it to completion because it's obvious where it's gonna go.
Well, one thing real quick. So I just got finished a few months ago watching several firms implement and some pure play consulting firms where I was brought in by the client. And one of the things I consistently heard from CEOs and COOs was what they value was the just in the moment Q&A of someone, to your point, someone who's been through it enough that they can actually say, well, this one's not quite like that, or here's how you do that. And it's going to be interesting how much of that AI can invade. And if it can invade most of it, if we could glean that from it, then you can get into a self-serve, right? You can literally say, I, I just want to know how to do this, right? So it's a really interesting path, and particularly in the situation where or most junior people joining the workforce today are so different than junior people joining the workforce 10 years ago, and their historical knowledge, interest, it's just so different that AI could really be a benefit as they mature.
Absolutely. And I think completing that thought from Anthony of like there are two companies and one of them is using AI a certain way versus another one isn't. I feel the example even within the same company, something that I've seen, I'm not naming the company, but like a big database company, they shrunk the timeline of their enterprise, like they did these app transformation projects. They shrunk it from like 24 months to 4 to 5 months. And that's resulted in so much more work coming their way that they're growing their PS team from 300 to 600. It's
Yeah.
insane. You would expect, hey, if the size of a project goes down, or maybe you need lesser number of people to do all the work that's on your plate. But no, instead, the appetite to engage shoots up so much when you reduce the risk of a project, right? When you say, hey, it's not a 24-month engagement at the end of which there's going to be a success or a failure. It's a 4-month engagement and you'll know the result. So many more people are willing to go through that journey. And I think that's a mental model which, teams need to apply to say, hey, using AI, making these services easier for ourselves and for our customers is not necessarily going to take away work. I think there'll be newer types of services you can offer, more services you can offer. The appetite to consume those services will increase because everything doesn't feel like a 2-month project. Maybe lots of things become 1 week initiatives. Lots of things become 2 week initiatives that you run. So I think what's what the world is going to look like. And as you said, maybe some of it moves to self-serve as well, but the number of types of services you can offer is going to evolve. One more trend which I feel is useful for us to think about is as every company starts also building more of their own AI capabilities, expand their offering in newer ways. We're also seeing PS teams are getting rebranded a little. Some of them are now called forward deployed engineers. And this is essentially to say, hey, my product isn't there yet, but PS is going to go in, work with the customer, and develop certain more capabilities, and then we can pull that back into the product where it makes sense. And that's another opportunity, right? Where these teams can have great impact in pushing the whole company, the business forward in newer ways. So, yeah, I think the landscape is changing. The goals are going to change. And what matters is we approach it with a certain curiosity and certain intensity to get things done. I think that's the first question that Anthony asked was like, what does great look like? To me, one of the things that I've consistently seen with some teams versus others is when there are those that approach this whole work that they do with a sense of, hey, we're going to be on top of things, we're going to be super professional, we're going to be buttoned up in how we deliver things. When you come in with that intensity as a team, the best example I had is a leader once asked me, how do projects get delayed? And I was like giving him, here are like the top 5 reasons we've seen projects get delayed. And his response was, no, Sri, I wanted a simple answer. Projects get delayed one day at a time. And that's what we want to put an end to, those 1 day delays that happen. And that's a result of, I think, it needs that mindset of every day matters. It needs that intensity. And when you have that, I think the way you approach experimentation as well, saying, hey, I need to do these experiments on time for my organization to move forward, explore newer paths to how we make customers successful, how we create the right outcomes for customers. It's not going to be, T&M anymore. It's not going to be even fixed fee anymore. It's going to be outcome based in the future because it's not tied to hours. All of those things we internalize, start working towards it today with intensity. I think that's what great looks like to me.
Yeah, no, I love it. You said a couple of things there that I want to highlight. The first one, I'm so glad you brought up the concept because I was going to ask you to pull out your crystal ball and say, all right, we've talked a lot about AI, and is this going to reduce jobs? Is this going to increase jobs? I'm with you on this. The productivity gains associated with this are going to open up the door for all sorts of new services and opportunities that PS can play. So just because it's shifting, I don't think the teams out there should be worried about that. I think they should be embracing it, because no matter what, it's coming. So you might as well embrace it and have the optimistic approach towards it. But the other piece to it that you said is something that is important, and maybe you can dive a little bit deeper into it. It's this customer centric mindset, right? Whatever we're doing on this topic, we can't do it from the lens of, okay, how do we strip out these costs? How do we change our billing model to this? How do we get our utilization rates how do we change the dollar per FTE that we have on a professional services team, right? If you're viewing it through those lenses, I believe, and you can push back, that everything about what you're doing ends up commoditizing in that space. And then you actually have no real differentiation on some of these things because now it just looks and feels the same. But if you redeploy those assets to say, what can we do better for the customer? Quicker time to value, spending more time with the customer to understand the fringe use cases of where the software doesn't actually complete what it needs to do. And how do we roll that back into engineering so that they can be the frontline voice of the market because they're actually out there talking to that. All right, now we're differentiating ourselves. We're helping differentiate our company and our product. We're adding more value out there, but it's all done with what's best for the customer and the market, not what's best for our bottom line. And so, yes, there'll be efficiency gains, but those efficiencies should be thought of as passed along to the customers as much as we can. So I don't know if you agree with that or if you want to expand on that at all, but those are the things I kind of wanted to make sure I emphasized about what you said there, because I think those are really important.
Right. I think great framing that it is about keeping the customer in mind. In a way, keeping the customer in mind is keeping the business in mind, right? Like what is going to impact my business, and don't put a box around what you're known to do, and hey, this is the scope of what we do. I think the scope is changing, and the outcomes you can um, create for the company is changing. So be open-minded about where the function can go, and I think it's worthwhile. The reason why I moved to SF a month ago is I think there's a new breed of companies getting created, and it's worthwhile seeing how they're doing things and learning from there and adapting. I think it's all about being super nimble, and you're pushing your whole team to be nimble, right? As a leader, you need to absorb things that you're seeing are changing in the world and react to it quickly, make those changes yourself as well, evolve your thinking around your function, evolve the thinking around what impact you can create for customers, and don't define it as strictly as you used to before.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Moving quickly, not standing still is really important at this time where the landscape changes by the minute, not by the week or the month. So Sri, this has been a great conversation. I want to give you the opportunity to kind of close with maybe a couple of parting comments and thoughts on this topic that we've covered, but also spend a second talking about what you and the team are doing and have on the landscape for actually helping organizations solve this problem, or at least lean into it a little bit. So yeah, feel free to kind of summarize and touch on that a little bit before we let you go.
So as I said earlier, our view of the future is it's very much humans and AI working together to get a lot more work done. And if that's going to be the case, I think our growth needs to come from helping that transformation happen. And so our trajectory with Rocketlane, of course, we continue building the product we have today, and making it better in different ways, adding AI co-pilots to get the operations done or admin work done easier, etc. But beyond that, we're saying, hey, here are primitives of kinds of work that we know teams are often doing. There's data transformation type work that teams are doing. There's data validation work that teams are doing. There's configuration and setup and setting up workflows and things like that, which teams are doing. There's integration work that teams are doing. There's requirements gathering. There's solutioning. Now, what if each of these had agents working alongside people? Each of these, and some of them maybe it's like entirely on autopilot. Some of it is like, you delegate to me, I'll come back with questions and we'll collaborate to do the work. Some of it is, hey, here's some suggestions from AI. But in each of these areas, there are enough commonalities across companies in terms of how that work is done, where we believe we can bring agents that work alongside these team members to do the work, and thereby help these teams move towards radical efficiency, right? And when I say radical efficiency, it's not necessarily about cost, it's about time. Whether they decide to pass on the benefits to a customer and say, hey, now something that was 3 months we were charging $30,000, it's now like $5,000 to get this job done. Or if they say, hey, by the way, since we did it in 3 weeks, it's actually worth more for you, customer. Like, we got you to value faster, you're going to charge more. People may be willing. And hence, I think there is that timeline crunch that is going to be super valuable. That every day of delay that the leader talked about, I think I want to go for the opposite. Save, multiple days along the way to really crunch the timeline, to go from, hey, we got together with the customer to understand what they want to accomplish, to here is a solution that we've proposed, to, hey, you've deployed the confirmed solution. I think that whole timeline is going to change, and we want to be the company helping that happen.
Great. Well, yeah, and you guys are doing some pretty innovative things. We've had a lot of guests on the podcast that I know work with you and have done different things there. So I'm glad we finally got a chance to talk. I like the last comment that you made there on right, just reinforcing that point on value. Right, a $30,000 project that took 3 weeks based on time and materials costs and actual hours used to do that is actually probably worth more to you if we can get that done faster. So this is not a crunch on hours and therefore a crunch on our ability to charge. We have to think of how we apply value and how we think about all this different in the new landscape. So, Sri, thanks for joining us. We'll do this again, and can't wait to see how the product continues to evolve. And I'm sure we'll cross paths at common clients over the coming weeks and months.
Thank you so much, Dean and Anthony, for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, I enjoyed the conversation with Sri there. I am happy that we kind of actually, I mean, behind inside baseball a little bit here. We deviated from the topic I thought we were going to cover with him because we went so deep on AI and where that's headed, and it felt like a missed opportunity not to go deep into that topic and see and understand some of the trends that he's seeing in the market, which is informing their product roadmap and strategy. Because we've talked to a lot of others and everyone has the AI questions or the AI mandate in some way. And he's actually living it and helping organizations realize some of that, especially on the delivery side of things, right? The billable aspect of it. So his insights were very helpful. I think the audience will really enjoy it. Dean, I don't know if you had any key takeaways from
Yeah. I think what I liked the very best was the acceptance that we're going to make the repeatable an AI partnership between the active AI and the consultants, the PS people. And that's going to free us to think, my words now, think more, interact more. But one thing I didn't get to ask him, I wanted to follow up on was, as we shrink our ability to move faster, are we getting ahead of the client's ability to react and change? So let's have him back and we'll start diving into that. But a great conversation.
Yeah. I Yeah, I love the point at the end. I mean, we talked about the shift in value, and part of your point on are we getting ahead of the clients in terms of what they want from a delivery team, first of all, and then what they expect, but also what they value, right? And we're going to have to, I think, re-educate the market, to Sri's point at the end there, on look, 3 months. And I mean, look, you and I have lived this on just in our consulting business, where we'll come in and even though we don't sell a hourly and a time and materials fixed project, right? We're selling outcomes and we're selling milestones, and that's our typical billing structure. People sometimes ask, well, how many people are going to be on this, and give us the hourly breakdown of what this adds up to, so that they can justify a price point for something like that. And the same thing is going to be true on implementations, because that's how they're used to buying. That's how they're used to explaining to their CFOs what they're buying. That's how they're used to doing all of these different things, and shifting the model that says, actually, it's not going to be 20 people here for 2 months in order to deliver this at this particular cost, but it's actually 4 people plus a bunch of AI agents that can get you this in 4 days. And that's actually more valuable to you. And let me explain why. That's a re-education of the market that we have not talked a lot about, but makes total sense.
Yeah, it's a very difficult problem. Also, the problem will be, does the internally we want less PS, right? We hear that all the time. Internally, we want faster outcomes and everything. To your point earlier, it's about the customer. What makes the customer successful? Then what do we do to make the customer successful? And our internal view is somewhat transactional. And that's another big change.
Yep.
But I agree with you. Pricing is going to have a huge amount of pressure, no matter what we say, no matter what we want to say.
Yeah,
because the AI is sunk cost, like a product.
Yeah.
It's a sunk cost.
The burden is going to increase on whoever is leading those sales discussions associated with the professional services, because they're going to have to communicate value differently, and right? It's
Yeah. Imagine saying, "Oh, the 24-month project's 4 months." Oh, well, it's
it's
1/8 the
it's six
cost.
times as expensive. Yeah.
Yeah. That it's going to be fun. But we are the fun thing is we're at the beginning of a revolution, and it's so fun to see how it's going to end up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And 2 years from now, like we're going to know so much more about how it all comes out.
Yeah.
So great guy. I'd love to have him back.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you, Sri, for joining us. If you enjoyed this conversation, you want to hear more like it, like, subscribe, and comment on YouTube or Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you want to get in contact with Dean or myself, reach out to us on our LinkedIn pages, or feel free to email the show at podcast@consultantsway.com. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.